So she pulls out a diaper. It was clean, but she pulled out a diaper. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I could sign the baby's forehead. Ricky Bobby does those. Anything to give us more separation before Calamity Corner of Turn 1 would certainly be beneficial with the group of crazies that we have.
Speaking of pit crews, you've got three new guys this week, and I think a couple of them come from the Xfinity Series. Is that a concern at all that they're dealing with different lug nut situations? Have they had time to practice together and anything like that?
I have no clue. I don't have any idea of where guys are coming from or what their background is or what their experience is, but you led into that and gave me some of that, so thank you. I always kind of just assumed the Cup guys were the Xfinity guys, so news to me. We'll find out how good they are come about 1:30 on Sunday.
Talked with Andy Petrie. Said he talked to you this week, and I kind of wondering too, from an athlete's point of view, the challenge for as good as you are on pit road, trying to take it even 10/10ths or take it to another level. How much do you have to be careful about not trying to do too much to carry a pit crew when there's the concern about you may lose a couple seconds? So how do I make it up? And then I'm guessing maybe was that a factor in sliding through or maybe not?
Yeah, no, it was. Anytime I'm on pit road, and I'm always thinking of the sheet and the statistics and the pieces of information that we have of what we try to gauge ourselves to the rest of our competition with. I mean, there's probably 5 or 6 different sectors of pit road of things that you worry about to make sure that you're the best at all of those. And, one of those is getting onto pit road, how you roll your pit road speed with your lights, how you get into the box, how you get out of the box, how you exit pit road, get back up on the racetrack and blend. And so all of those things, you want to be perfect every time. And so for me, I had come in the previous 2 pit stops before that, before the one I slid through, where I came in way too light. And I'm like, okay, I'm coming in way too light. I'm giving up. If it's a half a second, I don't even know what it is, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to make sure I hit it this time, and I hit the sign the way I need to hit the sign and everything else. And so that's what happened on the next one. I came in as hot as I thought I needed to come in, and when it locked the rear tires with the brakes, it just slid, and it slid 2 inches too far. So 1 week you're too short, the next you're too long. Kind of crazy, but all in all, just frustrating day to have the disaster that we did on pit road, of just being really slow, and then for me to slide through to kind of add insult to injury on my behalf. We otherwise would have been a top 10 finisher. So that was the day that we needed, and we certainly lost a lot of points.
When you say too light, what does that mean? I mean, you're not hitting the sign or not hitting it as forcefully, and obviously you have a sense of it, but I don't understand what that means.
Yeah, so you're rolling your pit road speed, and then as you decelerate to come into your box, you want to go to the brake pedal once and just kind of slow down and get down to speed, one constant down. The 2 times before that, I was coming in, I was slowing down and then having to get off the brake because I was too slow, and then reapply brake in order to stop at the spot that I needed to stop on. So I tried to hit that one trajectory of just straight down of decel, and I missed.
Mm-hmm. Go to Bob, and then all the way in the back to Brian.
Bob Hawkers, Fox Sports. I have 2. On that stop where you were called for pinning outside the box, you can't see where your splitter is, correct? So right. You have to rely on one of the pit crew guys. I guess where Randall sits, he couldn't see it either.
Yeah, so typically in years past at JGR, we'd always have a system of it's the changer's responsibility. And then from there, or a guy behind the wall, like one of the pit crew support guys behind the wall, needs to just start jumping up and down and waving, like push him back. And that's what I did. Like when I stopped, I came to a stop, I'm like, man, I feel a little long, but I don't know. So I looked at the behind the wall guys, and the behind the wall guys were like moving the hose and ready to catch a tire, like that wasn't even something they were supposed to do. So we've talked about some of those things this week to put more responsibility on more players, so we can not have the penalty exist. But to further Dustin's point, like, the 10/10ths on pit road, like I'm really good at getting all 10. And when I feel like I'm in a downward position where I'm behind, or I'm going to try to get extra. I'm going to try to get more. And so that's led to my speeding penalties. That's led to my sliding through the boxes, because I know I have to make up time on pit road myself to kind of compensate for what we're losing when we're stopped in the box. So I know everybody at RCR is busting their tail and working hard. I know that Ray and everybody in the pit stop department is. It's just we got what we got, and we've got to work through it. And if that's changing players around, then we've got to change players around, and we've got to find something that's going to strengthen our front line, our defense, whatever it is, whatever you want to call those guys, special teams. We've got to find the players that are going to make it roll. I'm already number one on pit road all the time, so I'm trying to just build my gap of how close I am to that line. The last 5 years or whatever. Denny loves statistics. Ask him who number one on pit road's been. So I take pride in that each and every year. I mean, it doesn't really do you a whole lot, but some teams give bonuses for that. I don't get bonuses for it, but some teams give that. I think 2311 actually does. So I don't think any of those guys are getting any.
And do you, obviously more changes this week. Is there a time of the year where you're like, okay, let's set a group and just kind of live or die with them? Or would you hey, no matter what time of year it is, we just got to keep changing, put the best guys we feel we have in there?
Well, I feel like you got to keep getting the best guys you can get in there and change positions as you need to change. But honestly, when you get down to the nitty gritty, you're going to run out of players. You know what I mean? The depth chart is not very deep for guys on pit road that are the Excel group. I feel like there's an A group of peoples, there's a B group, there's a C group, just like drivers. There's an A group, a B group, a C group. And so, it's hard to get any of those available guys from that A group to come over to you because they're under contract. So you're kind of just, you're basically playing with, what's it in football? The practice squad. You know what I mean? You're pulling guys off the practice squad to see what you can find, and hopefully you hit one.
All right, we'll go on the back to Brian and then down here to Jeff.
Brian Twining, Bettsford's Media Group. Last year, your two races here in Phoenix were pretty much polar opposites. You performed pretty well in the spring, and in the fall, you just, you weren't one of the championship 4 contenders, unfortunately. But is there anything from either of those two races that you're really looking at when coming into this weekend with the new short track package?
So the first race, we struggled a little bit. We weren't that great. I think we did get an 8th place finish out of it. So we got a finish out of it, but we weren't very good. The second race, though, I felt like we were really good. We were passing cars. We were fast. We had speed, but pit road happens. I don't know how many positions we lost on pit road here last fall, but it was bad. And so I kept trying to remake up the positions that we lost. I think we came down on a green flag pit cycle. We were in 8th or 7th or something like that. We came out 12th. So now I'm trying to make up for lost time, and then I end up spinning myself out in that long run. So that again, everything kind of compounds itself and puts on top of your issues that you have that just makes your day entirely worse. But back to your question, the fall race, I felt like we were competitive. I felt like we were fast. I felt like we had a shot to, if we had maintained every time on pit road, I think we could actually move forward throughout the day and get positioned. So we just need to be able to do that. If you're not going backwards, then that's a hell of a day for us.
We'll go to Jeff, and then over here to David, and then we'll wrap with Lee.
So, obviously pit crews have always been, a hot topic. Like, people switch stuff. 20 years ago, people switched crews out or, to get faster stops and stuff. But is the reason that, is everybody so close now that that's why there's such an emphasis on this? Like, they've never mattered more than they have now in terms of the pit stops, or is that too much of a leap compared to the past?
I guess I feel like the difference between 1st and 20th is much closer than it used to be. When I had my heyday of pit crews at JGR, we were running, give the second bracket, let's just say we were running 12 O's where the rest of JGR was 12 5s, and then the rest of the competition was 13 O's. Now you're literally, the whole field is, if you're not under 10 seconds, you're a nobody. You might as well not even play. But you've got to get to that. You got to get to that threshold. But there's now guys that are flying. 8.8s, 8.9s is a good stop, a fast stop. 9.4s is probably about average. So, it's just, we're all looking for what we can, because on track, at times, the cars are so equal that it's hard to pass on track. It's actually the easiest place to pass somebody else is when they're sitting still on pit road. So we've got to be better on pit road. We can't be going backwards, at least.
We're going to go over here to the right to David and then finish up with Lee.
David Bernauer, Cronkite News, Arizona PBS. So 2015, you won the Xfinity Series race in Chicagoland that night, and a fan confused my dad for you. So what is the oddest experience you've had with a fan?
The who? The honest or?
Oddest.
Oddest.
Like odd, weird.
Odd. I just had one a couple weeks ago, and I was like, man, that was pretty weird. I was like, that one's going up in the top 5 here, and now I forget about it.
It's not been that weird then.
Shoot. I don't know. Normally, what's the weirdest thing you've ever autographed? I've had those before. That's been a question. I was doing an autograph session one time for M&M's at M&M's World, and this lady was walking by, didn't even know that I was supposed to be here or anything, but she was a race fan and was like, oh my God, Kyle Busch, yada, yada, whatever, here, sign something. And she's rummaging through her bag, and I'm like, well, I can just sign your bag. And she goes, no, you can't sign the bag. It was like a Prada diaper bag or some stuff, so can't sign that. So she pulls out a diaper. It was clean, but she pulled out a diaper. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I could sign the baby's forehead. Ricky Bobby does those, but I don't know. Yeah, besides that, there's been some others that just slip my mind right now.
Thank you.
We'll take the last question from Lee here in the front.
Lee Spencer, Sirius X of NASCAR Radio and CatchFence.com. Air blocking became a big topic last weekend after Kyle Larson was describing it. Can you take us through the nuances of that? And if you're the lead guy, you have to have a huge advantage with that technique. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's way bigger with this car than it was the old car. This car's 30% worse. They were supposed to make it 30% better. That didn't happen. Who was it? It was, look back to the race at, was it Kansas? Was it Logano and Harvick when Harvick ran up to Logano and then Logano just air blocked him and couldn't pass him? And so there was that race, which that was the old car, wasn't it? So, I mean, it happens always in anything. Trucks are that way. Those guys are doing it somewhat, but these cup cars are really bad for that. You literally just, wherever you go off in the corner, and if you can watch your mirror and drive out front well enough, then you can just kind of like let your car go where it needs to go in order to air block that guy behind you. So I was doing that a little bit with Larson at the end of the first stage, just to try to hold him back some. Like I wasn't necessarily air blocking him. I was more so trying to confuse him of where I was running, because I wouldn't run the same line every time going back to the next end of the racetrack. Like I'd run high one lap, I'd run middle one lap, I'd run high, I'd run low. Like I just kept mixing it up. I wasn't necessarily air blocking, but I would say Kyle is really good at it. Joey's really good at it. Joey's really good at it running 12th. Not for the lead. Briscoe last week was an absolute disaster with guys trying to do it and pulling slide jobs and everything else. But, I mean, you try to do it as much as you can when you know you got somebody you got to hold off.
And real quick on moving the restart zone at COTA.
What'd they do? I don't know.
Back to turn 20.
Back to turn, okay.
So basically, coming around the last cornering before you go up the hill.
Uh-huh. So it's not going into the last corner, it's coming out, it's back to the old restart zone, is that or it's before the turn?
Before the turn.
So it's like Indy was last year?
Yeah.
Great, fantastic. Yes. Anything to give us more separation before Calamity Corner of turn 1 would certainly be beneficial with the group of crazies that we have.